Yeah. Alrighty, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for this wonderful presentation. So this presentation will be on elder abuse prevention. I always think that this workshop can be a little concerning because obviously we know that older adults can be susceptible or be seen as vulnerable. So it's the reason why we want to make sure we are providing you with this information is not to scare you, but to provide you with ways to identify elder abuse, both for yourself, your friends, your family, so you can learn how to protect yourself, advocate for yourself, and to do the same for your friends and family. So today we have Margaret Woods with us from Carter Burden, which is a really great community partner of ours, and also they have a program dedicated to assisting people in abusive situations. So thank you for joining us, Margaret.
Thank you, Gemma. Thanks for having us. I'm also here this morning with my colleague and the outreach coordinator for CMAP. Her name is Rosa Nagovich. So she's the person who will be doing a lot of these presentations going forward. But it's good to see everyone this morning, and hopefully I can share with you some information about the program, CMAP, which is, it's Community Elder Mistreatment and Abuse Prevention Program. That's what CMAP stands for, and it's located at the Carter Burden Network. My name is Margaret Woods. I'm the director of the program. I took over the position last June. And so we are housed in the Covello Senior Center on 109th Street. And so today I just want to share some information with you about elder abuse. And I want to see if I can start this presentation. Bear with me for a moment. Let's see. Okay. So here at the Carter Burden Network, we work with older adults in the CMAP program, ages 60 and older. And our program is we're partially funded by the New York City Department for the Aging, along with other community partners, the New York State's Office for the Aging, and Lifespan, which is in Rochester, New York. So today we just want to kind of share with you what elder abuse is, how you can identify some causes of elder abuse, what the 5 types that we deem to be considered as elder abuse, some resources that we can provide to seniors who are seeking some resources around elder abuse. And hopefully, if you have some questions, we can answer them at the end. So we'll get started. So basically, elder abuse. Can everyone see the screen? Hopefully you can. So I just want to give you some facts. So elder abuse is a problem that affects 7.6% of the population, or 1 in 13 older adults in the city. So the CMAP program covers the borough of Manhattan. Every borough has a elder abuse program, and our program is for the borough of Manhattan. And it's estimated that 1 in 24 cases, so only 4% of the cases are reported. So for every 1 case that is reported, 23 cases, unfortunately, are not. And among the cases reported, a family member is usually 90% of the people who are the abusers are a family member. So it could be a spouse, it could be a child, it could be a grandchild, a sibling. So 90% of the cases involve an older adult and a family member. And one of the biggest challenges in reducing the incidence of abuse is the lack of understanding of what elder abuse is. So hopefully we will help you understand more of that today. So the goal of the CMAP program basically is to raise awareness of what elder abuse is, to help older adults or seniors recognize the different categories and signs of elder abuse, and to provide some guidance and resource towards addressing elder abuse. So what is it? So the New York Elder Abuse Center, or NYSEAC, which is a community partner that we work with as well, defines elder abuse as a single or repeated act or lack of appropriate actions, which causes harm, the risk of harm, or distress to an individual 60 years or older, and occurs within a relationship where there is an expectation of trust, within an intimate partner and or familial relationship, and when the targeted act is directed towards an older adult by virtue of age or disabilities. So these are the criteria by which we accept cases. Anything outside of that criteria, we would have to refer to another agency that would assist. So what do I mean? Landlord-tenant disputes, we don't handle those. If there is a neighbor dispute, we don't handle those cases as well, but we can direct you hopefully to, community partners, be it NYPD, or help you with some legal resources in the community that will assist you. But if it's within a family relationship, an intimate partner relationship, you live with the person and there is an expectation of trust and there is something happening that's not right, those are the types of cases that our program is able to address. So elder abuse categories or mistreatment of categories. So there are 5 categories that we look out for, that that the literature dictates that are considered abuse. Those 5 categories are psychological, emotional, and verbal, physical abuse, sexual abuse. Neglect is broken out into 2 types, be it passive or aggressive, active, and financial exploitation. So physical abuse. What does it look like? So physical abuse is any behavior that results or is likely to result in, in injuries to the body, including hitting, pushing, choking, burning, throwing objects at a person, or forcible restraint. Now, these are just a small list. It could vary, but anything that would cause physical or bodily harm, these are the types of, this is the type of abuse that would warrant a call to 911 immediately to summon the police, who can do 2 things: restrain and arrest the person who has caused the physical harm, and 2, summon the EMS in case you or the older adult is hurt. So some signs of physical abuse. So, when talking to older adults or when seeing a friend, a family member, or if you see someone in the senior center and you're talking to them and you think that they may be abused, but maybe there's some inconsistencies with the story. Like, you see bruises and someone says, oh, I got that when I bumped into a door, but maybe the bruise doesn't look consistent with a bump into a door. It could be an injury, wherever the injury may be located. If it's on the forearms, if there are grab marks, if, you see marks on the neck, then that's not something that, an object would cause. It's possible that a person caused those bruises. If a person has soiled clothing, if there's tension between a client or a spouse and a caregiver, open wounds, cuts, or untreated injuries. If a person has broken eyeglasses or missing frames, might have missing dentures, aren't they, those types of things, perhaps there's some physical abuse going on. So sexual abuse. It's any behavior that hurts you sexually and includes unwanted sexual content without your consent, and includes inappropriate touching, can be fondling or kissing, can be rape, can be taking photographs in sexually explicit ways if someone asks you to pose or take pictures that you don't feel comfortable with. Exposure to sexual content without your approval. That can include pornography, that can include pornographic movies and things that you may not be comfortable with. Another form of abuse that we address is neglect. And I broke it out, it's broken out into two forms. It could be active or intentional neglect, or passive or unintentional neglect. So in active neglect, the abuser is aware that they are causing harm. So they know what they are doing and they are intentionally inflicting physical harm, psychological harm, sexual harm to the victim. And it's usually, and this type of active abuse can usually be motivated by greed or some other form of self-interest. In the example of financial exploitation, maybe greed is a motivating factor. And so they may be transferring assets from the older adult into their name or taking money out of their account. Versus passive neglect, where the abuser is unaware that they are causing harm. And usually it's based on factors such as ignorance or denial that an older person needs as much care as he or she does. So an example of that would be, say you have a mother-daughter relationship and mom needs a little more extra care at home and the daughter is working, she has kids, and she's doing all of these things. She's in the sandwich generation where she's taking care of mom and she's taking care of kids, and she works full time. And so mom may be declining in that she's not able to take care of her activities of daily living. She's not able to bathe or dress herself as she once did, or she's not able to get groceries from the store. She's not able to do all of these things that she once did that, her daughter always remembered her doing, but things have changed, be it a physical change, be it a medical change, be it a cognitive change. And so she's unaware of the true nature of her decline and the care that she may need. So she may not get as much home care. So she may have 2 days of home care where mom might need 5 days of home care. And because she's not fully focused on the problem of moms not being able to take care of herself at home, she may not be aware or she may not be conscious. It's not that she's doing it intentionally, but she's just not focused on the nature of mom's decline, which calls for additional care. So that may be a form of passive or unintentional neglect. She's not doing it to cause mom harm, but it is causing her harm in a way because she's not getting the full care that she needs. So some signs of neglect. Whether it's active or passive, always remember that neglect is the failure to fulfill caretaking obligation, resulting in a wide range of problems, including, so this will cover also home care attendants, people who live in to take care of mom or dad. And that can include, when there's neglect, that can include bed sores. The older adult can be dehydrated. There can be poor hygiene. They're not taking regular baths. Their hair may not be as clean as it should be. Poor nutrition, they aren't getting regular meals or well-rounded meals. And all of these things, these signs of neglect can lead to death eventually if they're not taken care of and addressed. Another category of abuse is financial exploitation. So we get a lot of these cases in the unit where there's an improper use of the older adults' funds, property, or resources by another individual, usually a child, an adult child, a grandchild, or a sibling. And it could be including, but not limited to, fraud, obtaining the finances under false pretenses, embezzlement, where people have businesses and they steal the money from the older adult, or they have assets that they take or siphon off, conspiracy, forgery, falsifying records, could be a will, could be a power of attorney, or coerced property transfers. That could be forcing the older adult to sign over a mortgage, to sign over stocks, to sign over bonds. We've had cases like that where older adult had resources and the older adult child forced the parent to sign over stock or sign over financial documents, which they then cashed out and took the money. And so signs of financial exploitation. So what does it look like? A client who is potentially being financially exploited, there could be, because we do, as part of the CMAP program, we have social workers who go into the home, and a disparity between assets and living conditions. There have been situations where we are aware that the client has assets, that they can pay their rent without problems. They can afford furniture, they can afford, anything that they would need to take care of their daily needs, but the living conditions and the assets don't meet up. So there's sparse furniture, not a lot of food in the house, things of that nature. Something could be going on and that the assets aren't being used for the care of the older. Sudden changes in banking practices. We've had cases where, the client's resources and their banking practice have been pretty stable. They pay their bills, they get their, either social security checks or pension checks. And then all of a sudden there's like these large sums of cash that are being withdrawn. Or it could be like payments online, a lot of shopping and online purchases, which we know that the client doesn't have a smartphone. The client doesn't know how to use a computer, but all of a sudden there's these changes in purchases that we aren't sure where they're coming from. Unpaid bills. Rent goes into arrears where the client has always paid their rent for 20, 30, 40 years on time. Then all of a sudden they have rental arrears. Their Con Ed is running arrears. Their Spectrum gets cut off, or their cable bill gets cut off, but they've always paid their bills on time. Abrupt changes in their will or their power of attorney. They've had, their son, their daughter as the beneficiaries of the will all this time, and then all of a sudden there's this mysterious friend that becomes the beneficiary of the will. Or they designated their daughter as the power of attorney, and then all of a sudden there's a neighborhood friend who now is the power of attorney, and the daughter is no longer the power of attorney. We've had a case where the children thought that they were designated as power of attorney and healthcare proxy, and there was a family friend or someone who had gotten the older adult to transfer those documents into their name. They took over some finances and sold and purchased and liquidated assets. And so the children weren't aware of it until it was too late. And so those are situations where the person was very vulnerable, but because the children lived out of state, they weren't fully aware of what was going on. So it's also important too, if you have documents like a power of attorney or a will, that you review them on a regular basis, that you make sure that those documents reflect your wishes, that the people that you designate to take care of your affairs in the event that you cannot, that those are the people that you trust. And that if anyone ever asks you to change or sign over documents, you refuse only because if it doesn't feel right, most of the times it's not right. So substandard care, although funds are available, as I mentioned, they may not be getting the proper home care in the home, although they have the resources to pay for home care. They have the resources to have home care, if they need it 5 days a week or if they need it 7 days a week, but they're only getting it 2. Where's the other money going? How is the person being cared for the other days of the week? Or if older adults' signature is forged on documents, be it a power of attorney, be it a check, or any financial document where someone else can gain and the older adult doesn't remember signing it or never signed it, or it isn't their signature. So in line with financial considerations, I want to talk about a little bit about capacity, the ability, your understanding of why you have certain financial documents, what they do, why you have certain resources, what those resources are, and what would happen if in the event you didn't have those resources. So capacity is a person's ability to make decisions for themselves and to understand what those decisions will mean for them. So it's important for you or your loved one to decide, as I said, if you need an informal caregiver, like a daughter, a son, a grandson, or, you know, a sibling that you trust, who, if you're able to manage your funds, but you need someone from time to time to, you know, go to the bank for you, or you need someone to, you know, go pay a bill or do something, that's an informal caregiver. Based on your needs or your abilities, how you can manage or not manage your needs, maybe you just need an informal caregiver, someone who, you know, is maybe unpaid, someone in the family who agrees to do that, and they do it on a limited or as needed basis, versus a formal caregiver that you would establish either through going through an agency. You know, they're bound, you know, by, they're vetted and they're bound by agency practices, by New York State practices. And so you have a formal caregiver, be it a home care agency or, you know, that you pay privately. So if you have diminished financial capacity, which I think is important because we're talking about financial exploitation, you know, it could be a decline in the person's ability to manage money in their financial assets, to serve in his or her best interests, including the inability to understand the consequences of those decisions. So you may have access to many forms, financial forms of, you know, stocks, bonds, IRAs, whatever the case may be. And you understand what those resources are and what they're used for, or what you would like to have them used for. But if in the event something happens, you have a medical event, you have a stroke that can impact your cognitive behavior, or if you're diagnosed with dementia or Alzheimer's, which will eventually impact your cognitive abilities, this can impact how you understand what you have, how you understand how to manage your money, and what your financial assets are, and what you would like to do with them, and what you would see like what you would like seeing done with them in the event that you can't take care of that yourself. So planning ahead is very important. My background is in case management as well as palliative and end of life care, and I've always emphasized with my clients in the past, as well as in elder abuse, to make sure that you plan ahead so that you can stay in control of your finances and your decision making. And what does that mean? You know, in the event that there's a serious health event, we don't like for them to happen, we don't want or wish for them to happen, but it could happen. So what does that mean? Organizing important documents, wills, healthcare proxies, bank statements, things of that nature that you would, you know, want someone to have, your power of attorney to have in the event that you cannot do these decisions or make these decisions yourself. That means providing financial professionals, your banker, your lawyer, your accountant, with trusted emergency contacts. Emergency contact information is something that if you're interacting with the senior center and you haven't put down someone that you trusted in the event they can't reach you, this is someone I trust that I want you to reach out to who has regular contact with me. You should update that information as soon as possible. Make sure that the senior center has that information, that a case manager, if you have a case manager in your life, has that information, so that in the event that your worker, your social worker, your case manager loses contact with you, your banker, or whoever it may be, there is someone else that you trust that we can reach out to, we can gain some knowledge and insight into why we can't contact you or what may be going on with you in order to better assist you. Creating a durable power of attorney. If you don't have one and you do have assets, I encourage you to, you know, think about how would you want your assets distributed or taken care of in the event that you can't take care of those things yourself. Keeping your records up to date. You know, you may designate your daughter as your power of attorney 1 year, and then unfortunately you have a falling out and you feel like she may not act in your best self-interest, then the best course of action is, if you really feel that way and you have another child or you have someone else you wish to designate who you feel that you trust, could be an alternate, could have been the alternate person on the power of attorney to your daughter, then update those records, because what happens is, in the event that you are unable to take care of yourself or you are unable to make those decisions, then the daughter that you may not be in good relationship with at the time will have the authority to make those decisions for you, and that may not be what you would wish for in that moment. And most importantly, to speak up if something goes wrong. So in elder abuse is a topic that's not talked about. It's one that's loaded with a lot of stigma, a lot of shame, a lot of guilt. But the only way that you can receive the help and the assistance that you may need is if you speak up, is if you say what's wrong. If you see something, say something. And that applies here. Only if something is not right, if you realize that there's a problem with your finances, that you're not doing certain things and money is missing, then it's important to reach out to someone and speak to them and tell them what's wrong. It could be your case manager. That could be the first line of defense, who could then contact us. And then we could talk about the case and see how we can assist, or if we need to refer it to the DA's office, or if we need to refer it, if we need to find out more information, to refer it to someone else in the community who can assist. So some key takeaways that I would like for you to kind of walk away with is that elder abuse, it affects older adults. We assist older adults 60 years and older. It can occur in a relationship where there's an expectation of trust, be it a familial relationship, be it an intimate partner relationship, or as the result of one's age or disability. It takes the form of psychological abuse, emotional and verbal, people calling you names, telling you, putting you down, telling you that you're worthless or that you're not gonna amount to anything. We've had terrible stories where, children have told their parents, I wish you would die, and things like that, which are really harmful and really hurtful, both to your psyche, to your emotions, and it makes you feel bad. That's a form, that is abuse. Physical abuse, as I mentioned, the forms before, sexual abuse, neglect, be it active or passive, and then financial exploitation. So if you're aware of these signs of abuse, including, irregular behavior in a person's finances, your finances, or obvious signs of abuse, these are things that, should send up red flags. These are things that, if it doesn't feel right, or if you think that something is wrong, odds are it is, and you should speak up. We encourage you to speak up. So CMAP, our elder abuse support system. So what do our services provide? So we provide supportive and crisis counseling. Our staff consists of 4 social workers. There are 2 English speaking social workers. There are 2 Spanish speaking social workers. There's myself, and there's the outreach coordinator who does all of these presentations. And so we are here to provide counseling if needed, or referral to elder abuse support groups. We don't have support group at this time, but if that is something that's available in another program's toolbox, and if we can refer you, because a lot of things are being done online now, then we can refer you to a support group if needed. Security device installation. So if you need if you are a client of CMAPs, and you need your lock change because, for whatever reason, we had a situation where an adult daughter took the locks off. She was out of state. She came in state, and she took the locks off the client's door, and she never replaced them. We don't know why, but so it made the person vulnerable, only because now she can put a lock on the door on the inside, but if she goes out, her door is completely open. So we can change the locks so that you feel secure. We can provide you with referrals to legal guidance and court advocacy. So we work with the court system, we work with NYPD, we work with other community partners in the city that assist older adults facing elder abuse. And so these are the resources that we have that we can connect you with. If you need powers of attorney, if you need orders of protection, if you have a daughter or older child or a roommate situation where you need to evict the person and you have to go through the court system to evict them, because in New York, after 30 days, the person has squatters' rights, and then you have to go through legal channels. We can help with housing evictions. And so as things are moving back, it's not where it was pre-pandemic, but as things in the court system start to ramp up again and they start to function similar to how they did pre-pandemic, we can assist with, if you need to go to housing court and you need support, then the social worker can go as a form of support as you advocate, the situation on your behalf. So as I said, coordinating with the police. Each precinct has a domestic violence officer. We connect with those officers when warranted, when there's a situation of abuse, and we can request wellness checks so that the NYPD can check in on the older adult client just to make sure they're safe. It's also a deterrent to future abuse. If there is someone who's living in the home that's perpetrating any type of abuse, if they know that the police are going to be knocking on the door at random times, then that's a deterrent to further abuse. So how do we reduce the occurrence of elder abuse? That's a community-wide response. It's not just social workers and case managers and police, but it's actually the person who's being abused to kind of step up and say, listen, this is not right. This is happening to me. I need to say something. I need some assistance. I need some help. We're here to help you. It's a community-wide response. And it's the only effective way to reduce the prevalence of elder abuse. So when we're all working together as part of a team, we can help address those needs of abuse, help the person resume a life of safety in their own environment, and to help them to heal from the abuse. So efforts like this, having presentations, as it gets warmer and we move out into the world more, if there are street fairs and things of that nature, we will be, in the community providing information and resources so that you can become more aware of this issue. Because as I mentioned at the top of this presentation, 1 in every 24 cases get reported. So there are a lot of cases that are happening. There are a lot of incidents that are happening that aren't being reported, unfortunately, and the person is suffering needlessly. So efforts to increase awareness and recognition of the various forms of domestic elder abuse, the 5 forms that I mentioned earlier, will have a positive impact on the detection, reporting, and prosecution of those cases. So being able to identify the abuse, being able to acknowledge and report the abuse is important in order to get the assistance to the person as needed. Always, if there's a physical situation, the first line of defense is calling 911, because that will get the police there. And as I said in the beginning, it will get the person arrested and a criminal order of protection issued if there is an assault. And because unfortunately the cops can't do anything until something like that happens, if it's just verbal, then that's something that we could handle, but the cops can't take a person away just because they're cursing at you or they're being mean or they're, saying nasty things. But if it becomes physical, if it becomes violent, then that's when it moves into the territory of the NYPD, and they can actually do something about it by having them removed, getting you medical attention at the scene if you need it by calling EMS, and issuing an order of protection, which will help keep the perpetrator from reoffending and hurting you or hurting the loved one further. So how do you report? Sorry about that. How do you report elder abuse? 2 ways. You can call 311. If you say you want to report, an instance of elder abuse, they will transfer you to the unit at Carter Burden, or you can call the number on the screen, which is 917-409-1261 extension 1. If I'm not sitting at the desk, you can leave a message and I'll get back to you. And we can talk about what's happening. And as I said, one piece that's not in here that I wanted to also just say briefly is there's an element of culture, because everyone comes from a different culture. And I'm finding that in this work, sometimes culture can be a barrier to reporting elder abuse because, there is, there's a family rule, or there's a rule that says we don't talk about things outside of the home. And so that keeps the older adult from reporting and getting the help that they need because culturally it's something that's not done. While I know that it could be difficult, to go outside of what's always been done, I always encourage clients, if you're being harmed in any way, if you know someone's being harmed in any way, to report it, because it's best that they receive the help that they need. I mean, people will get upset, obviously, but I would rather people get upset and the person be safe than for, it not to be reported and then something bad or something terrible happens to the older adult. As a social worker, I'm a mandated reporter. So if I heard of any type of abuse, physical or whatnot, I am bound to report. Not all people are mandated reporters, but it is important that if you see someone, someone is hurt, to pick up the phone and call, because you don't know the extent of the abuse, but it might save someone's life. So that is basically the program. Like I said, we're housed at Carter Burden, along with JASA, which is another community partner that we work with. We cover the whole borough of Manhattan to assist older adults in dealing with elder abuse. So I will open up the floor now. I don't have anything further, but I will open up the floor now for questions. If you'd like to ask a question, or if you'd like to, comment in any way, now is a good time to do that. I'll turn it back into the hands of Gemma.
Thank you so much. I mean, if anyone has if you're on a phone, I did have to mute some people. *6 is how you unmute yourself. I just want to remind people that you can also come and speak to the social workers here at Isaacs should you need any assistance. We work very closely with Carter Burden. And if we find that your case is a case that's good for them, we'll refer you to them. But if you need assistance from other agencies, we're here to support you and to help you. If you need to reach a social worker, you can always ask the front desk to see if they can refer you, or if you want to speak to me privately, you're also welcome to do that as well. So if anyone has any questions, if you're on a phone at home, *6 is how you unmute yourself.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Can I go ahead? I can hear you. I wanted to know about the agencies that you have outside the senior center, like you said, the advocacy agency, or different agencies that you mentioned.
Okay, so Carter Burden CMAP is a community partner with, there's NYSEAC. So there's the New York City Elder Abuse Center. They're out of Weill Cornell. So Weill Cornell Medicine, they have a huge geriatric medicine department. So within that department, we also receive cases, especially when there's a situation where an older adult has been hospitalized and they're being released back into the community. So there's the New York City Elder Abuse Center. There's also the Weill Cornell persons. There's a hotline for concerned persons out of Weill Cornell. It depends. If you need legal assistance, then we work with
a legal assistant and the managing agent. It's not I mean, the managing agent is like the landlord.
Yeah, so that's another, so it sounds like you're dealing with the landlord tenant issue. So I would contact, so there's NILAG, there's the New York Legal Assistance Group that we tend to refer a lot of people to in terms of pro bono or free legal advice where they can get assistance with, legal, if they have legal issues. So there's the New York Legal Assistance Group. And you can Google that. Or, I can send that information to Jim, or Gemma can provide you with the number offhand.
Yeah, I prefer if you can. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for anyone that logged in via computer, I also will be emailing out the recording of this this meeting. And if there's any resources you need, you can always reach out to me again. Does anyone else have any questions?
Hello, can I be heard?
Yes.
Hi, this may be unusual to what you typically hear, but I've run out of everywhere I could go or turn to for assistance, even calling there for a social worker, the person never got back to me. I moved into a new residence back in 2019 before COVID. And the first thing I noticed was that there were an overwhelming fume of drugs coming into my apartment, but that's not easily identifiable, but impacted, meaning I would get a contact high, I would get jitters, my dog would be affected by it. And this was just going on. And every time I reached out to the new management, they would ignore me. And so I would do, whenever these experiences would occur, I'd get awakened in the morning, like 3, then throughout the day, and it continues to today. And the management has changed, but no one is doing anything. Even when I asked if I could have a separate apartment, another apartment, they won't allow me that. So this has been affecting me. I've done everything that I think I could do, HPD, DEP, the fire department, hired my own chemical, environmental chemical company on 2 occasions to see if they could identify it. And I think that's the stealthy thing that folks get away with, is that it's not easily identifiable unless you live in it or you're with it, but it doesn't have a chemical thing. So I've just run out of solutions. Even right now, I have to take my dog to the emergency because she is impacted constantly. And I just don't know where else to turn to. The police precinct says, call this number, and there's nobody there. They said, I've talked to several people at the station, to detective people. So I feel like there's no one to assist me in this manner. The most I was able to get was a reasonable accommodation to move from here. The thing is trying to find a place, of course, COVID hit and I just had to live with it and accept it. But I just said, I don't know what to do in this unique scenario of events, and to get some support or where to go.
Well, unfortunately, it's unique, but it's not as unique as you think. I've gotten a number of calls during COVID regarding the same thing. And unfortunately, outside of, sounds like all of the things that you've done, and I think that is one of the main reasons, those types of issues, unfortunately, we don't have the resources to handle, outside of, because that's well within the purview of the cops to investigate, detectives if needed. You said the DEA, that's within their purview, but unfortunately, the reality of it all is during COVID, a lot of landlords have taken in people that are less than savory, and they've caused these issues. And unfortunately, I don't have any resources that I could provide, but your situation has become more common than unique, unfortunately. So I'm sorry that I don't have anything to offer on that end, because But it is a difficult situation because it becomes a matter of where is it coming from, who's doing it, that
Yeah.
sort of thing. And if it's behind a closed door or you don't exactly know from which direction,
Yeah.
it's hard to prove, which unfortunately is how they get away with it.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing not that I don't have, so I would recommend that you speak to a lawyer, because if it is impacting your health to a degree, and if this is a regular occurrence, I don't know if legally there is some recourse you could take. So maybe contacting a lawyer and seeing if there's something you can do in terms of litigation, maybe. But I'm sorry, like we don't really have any resources in the community to address those issues, but they're occurring more often.
Yeah, the only thing I got from poison control is there's certain kind of tests you may be able to get, but even in presenting the COPD that I acquired since I got here, they're not, all they did was they gave me, reasonable accommodation. So they were letting me out of my lease, but I now have to find a place to go to.
Oh, right.
And, yeah, so that's my struggle there. And, if I could backtrack, because this is like the first week I was here, I notified them right away, give me another apartment, and they just refused to do so. So, it's 2.5 years going on 3 in November. All right. I just
Sorry
thought
to
I'd
hear
ask.
that. No, unfortunately, it's becoming more common, and it's something that's not really being addressed.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. No.
I have a question.
Yes. Yes.
Can I go ahead? You gave a phone number during your presentation. I got the 917-409, but I missed
1261, and it's extension 1. That's my extension.
Okay, got it. Thank you very much.
Can you repeat the number?
917 409
Okay.
1261.
Is this your number?
That's the number to the unit. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much. And what's your name again?
My name is Margaret Woods.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yes, I have a question. The question is in regards to the previous lady with the marijuana smoke and everything. Don't the apartments and everything have bylaws against foul smells, like cooking and all this other stuff? If they have foul, like for bylaws, smelling corridors, smell of marijuana smell in there, why can't you evoke the bylaws of the corporation there?
I think I'm still unmuted. For me here, unless someone spends time, and I've had a cousin during COVID come by and spend a lot of time with me to visit, and she had it and identified it as chemical, but in terms of a distinctive odor, not so. Even though I know my neighbor across the hall does smoke marijuana, it doesn't come into it comes in my apartment, but that doesn't bother me, and I block that. But whatever this other stuff is, it just kind of seeps in through windows or some sort of areas between apartments. But what is very tangible for me is the contact high that I continue to get. And it's hard to explain that to anybody. It's like, so to the point where I may be the crazy old lady who keeps repeating, to security force here, come check this out. Well, we don't find anything. So it's futile and frustrating. And as indicated by Ms. Woods, that it's one of those things that not enough people are speaking about. Part of it is the culture in the area. So, and then wanting to be careful as a single senior, and how I express my concerns to other people. But I've done my due diligence, even notes under the doors to neighbors, asking directly, I think I've done everything I could think of doing, and there it is.
I would encourage you also to create a paper trail, document everything, send it in writing. If it's to the managing agent, document it, make sure that you write, you send a letter so that there is a paper trail, created, because then it becomes more concrete in that it's on paper. And, if enough of that happens, if you, contact your local congressman, I've had clients who contacted their local congressmen to, inform them of the situation. But if you create enough paper, sometimes that also gets some action as well. And then if you need to seek legal advice, and if it becomes an issue where, you need to litigate, you have documentation. I think that can be empowering too, in that you have dates and times and things that even though you can't concretize what's coming into the apartment, it doesn't, manifest in ways that other things will. You're at least documenting that this is happening. If you're taking your dog to the emergency room, 4 or 5 times a month, then you want to document that. You want to, if you're going to the emergency room because now you've developed a serious health issue, then you want to put that down on paper. You want to document that, because I think in a way, a way of empowering yourself could be that now, you're making a fuss, but you're making it on paper. And that tends to get more attention than if it's a phone call where people are not answering phones now, but if they're getting letters, if they're getting emails, if they're getting certified mail letters where they have to sign for it, then, or if it's coming from a lawyer, then it becomes an issue where they have to pay attention to it.
Okay. I have some of that. I just have to amass it now, because every time I have the experience, I write it down, but not necessarily in the mail. And I know management, I heard when this last iteration of management came in, they threw out stuff that was reported before, but I do have some documents. I got lapsed sometimes because just being frustrated, but that sounds like something that I could try to put together. Yeah.
That may be
or two. Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry that it's happening to you and your dog, because, you want to have a safe space to live in, and, you want to have a good quality of life. And it's, the pandemic has unfortunately, in some ways, deteriorated the quality of life in the city. So I'm sorry that this is happening.
Yeah, other than that, I love it where I'm at. If it wasn't for that one experience. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you for it. Yeah. All right.
Alrighty, we're coming up on the end of the hour. Does anyone else have any questions while we're on?
I just wanted to have from you, Gemma, the phone numbers of the legal group, the pro bono.
Okay,
So
I'll give you. Yeah, I can give you a call for that later, or
Okay,
Karina will reach out to you with it.
Thank you.
I just want to say that it was very informative, especially for us seniors, and interesting. Thank you.
Okay, if you ever need,
thank you so much.
To reach out. We're here to help you. We're in the community, and we want to make sure that everyone stays safe. So thank you all for coming and for joining today. I appreciate you taking your time out to listen. And if you need us, we're here.
I just want
Thank you very much.
What was your name again?
Margaret.
What was your name?
Margaret Woods.
You were great. Thank you so much, Margaret. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you again. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. Have a good afternoon.
Take care.
Thank you, Gemma.
Bye. Thank you, Gemma.